In the heart of a song, on the wings of a smile, in the touch of a teardrop, in a look that is caught at a moment in time, in the echoes of laughter, I'll remember you.
Barnett and Steele Funeral Home and Cremation Center, Pineville, Kentucky.
Hi, I'm Jim Mills Jr. of Mills Furniture and Appliance out of RJ, Kentucky. As you can see, Mills Furniture and Appliance is providing you with the highest quality outdoor power equipment there is. Husqvarna. Mills Furniture and Appliance, bringing you chainsaws, weed eaters, push mowers, brush cutters, blowers, riders, and self-propelled mowers. For anything you've ever wanted, needed, or desired in the outdoor power equipment, Mills Furniture and Appliance and Husqvarna, bringing it to you.
Hello neighbors, this is Jay Steele, your Bell County Coroner. Experience is defined as knowledge or practical wisdom gained from what one has observed. In addition to the required training by the Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice Training, and to be a better coroner to the voters of Bell County, I have taken voluntarily the following additional training. I participated in the Master's Program sponsored by the St. Louis University School of Medicine's Division of Forensics and Environmental Pathology, the National Forensics Academy at the University of Tennessee's Law Enforcement Innovation Center. I participated in the Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration, the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigations, and I participated with the National Transportation Safety Board. I have improved the efficiency of the Bell County Coroner's Office while saving thousands of taxpayer dollars. Vote for me, Jay Steele, as we continue to improve the Coroner's Office.
When you're looking for a place to live, what do you look for? Convenience, value, safe housing? Well, of course you do. The Housing Authority of Middlesboro offers affordable housing for you and your family. All the apartments have been updated and are energy efficient. Income-based rent, fair market rent, and flat rent. Whatever your situation is, the Housing Authority of Middlesboro provides safe, clean housing that is user-friendly in a neighborhood-type setting. Randy Earl invites everyone to look at the Housing Authority of Middlesboro. Call 606-248-6500 for more information. Safe and affordable housing you can call home. The Housing Authority of Middlesboro.
My name is Brian O'Brien with 106.3 FM. I want to welcome everyone out to this Meet the Candidates debate/forum. It's an opportunity to ask questions of the coroner candidates here in Bell County. Now this evening we just have two gentlemen on our stage, whereas some of our other forums have had several others. So this obviously will go by a little bit faster. There will be one or two extra questions being asked in order to make up for that time, but I promise we'll try not to keep you too much longer than an hour. All right? I'd like to introduce a few people who are going to be a part of tonight's debate, and then we will introduce our candidates. We have Sue Wyatt down front here. Sue is a lifelong resident of Middlesboro, Kentucky. She is just a great lady, and she's someone who is outspoken in so many different fields. I don't know where to begin, but she has been kind enough to be with us here tonight asking questions of the candidates. Let's have a hand for Miss Sue Wyatt. And having her fourth and final debate with us tonight, this is a young lady who's a Middlesboro graduate. She is also graduated from Moorhead College. She currently works at Dr. Dubin's office in Middlesboro, Route 21, for you fashionistas, if you'd like to get something special there. This is a young lady who goes by the name of Julia Herron. In the center is my buddy Travis. He's going to be keeping time. We'll explain that here in just a moment. I do want to welcome all of the media here tonight. From Channel 13, Hometown TV, Chris and Clarence are here. Also want to say hello to, where is she? From the Pineville Sun, Julia. Thank you very much. And I also want to say hello to Anthony from the Middlesboro Daily News. And for those of you taking notes, welcome. All right. My name is Brian O'Brien from 106.3. It's now time to get this underway. Again, we'll try not to keep you too much longer than an hour. These lights can be a little glaring, and the pressure can be just a little bit for the candidates. Let's introduce the candidates. And I'll have them do that in a 1-minute introduction. Then we'll tell you how the time card is going to go. you don't have to be too regimented tonight with the introductions, Travis, because there are just two gentlemen tonight. So in alphabetical order, because they are on the same ticket, we're going to start with Mr. Bechet. Sir, you have a minute to introduce yourself and let the folks know what you're doing with your campaign.
Hello, I'm Bill Bechet. Brian, thank you all for having this. Thank everyone for coming. I'm a licensed funeral director and embalmer for 29 years. I served as Bell County Deputy Coroner for 26 years. I am the father, or the husband of Elizabeth, the father of Jenny, Katie, and Julianne, and the grandfather of Harper. I would like to be your Bell County Coroner. I believe my experience, years of service, and the achievements that I achieved while in the office will speak for themselves. And thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Steele, if you would introduce yourself to these folks, you have a minute, sir.
My name is Jay Steele, and I thank you, Brian, and you folks for being here this evening. My qualifications, I feel, as your coroner include 142 hours of Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice training, 40 hours at the master's program sponsored by the St. Louis University School of Medicine's Division of Forensics and Environmental Pathology, 16 hours at the National Forensics Academy at the University of Tennessee Law Enforcement Innovation Center, for a total of 198 hours of training in just 3 years. I'm a member of the Kentucky Coroners Association, the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. I'm on the Kentucky Mass Casualty and Disaster Team, with training provided by the DMOR Mortuary Operations Response Team, and I'm preparing to take certification tests for the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators, which is a professional certification board established to promote the highest standards of practice for medical legal death investigation. I want to continue to serve as your coroner of Bell County, and thank you so much for being here this evening.
All right, we're going to address Travis for just one moment. If you will look his way, he's the gentleman with the cap on. And here's how the questions go. The blue card, I know it can be a little difficult to see in this environment. Travis, if you would just a little higher, thank you. The blue card stands for 60 seconds left for you to speak. The yellow card stands for 30 seconds left for you to speak. And the red card is it's time to wrap up. And if I see you've gone over a little bit, I'll wait till I can anticipate breath, and I will break in, but I don't believe we're going to have to worry about that with these two gentlemen. So if you are ready, let's get the candidate forum underway. Let's have a hand for these gentlemen. All right, as it's going to start, because we have just two men, we will start alphabetically with the first question, and then in reverse with the second, and so on and so forth. And it just makes sense that way, and that way the same person isn't answering the question first each and every time. So we're going to start off with Julia. Gentlemen, you have 2 minutes, once again, 2 minutes to answer this first question.
What, in your mind, is the responsibility of the office of coroner?
Mr. Bechet.
The coroner's office is perhaps one of the most responsible offices in the county. When someone has passed away, the coroner is the voice for that person. We stand as a voice for someone who can no longer speak for themselves. It is imperative that we utilize every tool available to help families find resolution, whether it be by medical examiner consultant, lab consultants, forensic consultants, whatever that may be. And then we coordinate our investigation with police and other officials, whether it be local, state, federal, whomever is investigating alongside of us. I believe that our office serves to help people find the answers they're looking for in a time when sometimes answers don't seem like they're possible. I believe that the coroner's office has a responsibility to the citizens to be well trained, to be able to have, to be well trained and to be able to let people be approachable and be available to them to answer their questions.
Just remember, I know it's when you're down in the audience, it's easy to say, okay, he's got 60 seconds. Don't be intimidated by the cards. Just remember, the 60-second is saying that you have 60 seconds left in the question there. I know it can be a little disconcerting with everyone watching. Julia, if you would address the same question to Mr. Steele, please.
What, in your mind, is the responsibility of the office of coroner?
the coroner is called to a death scene, he must be able to draw from the evidence at hand what is telling him is taking place there. It could be an automobile accident, it could be a natural death, it could be a drug overdose. And we do work with the forensic doctors in both Frankfort and in Louisville. We also work with AIT labs where we send our work to be blood work, urine history. We all send that to them to be verified as to what that person may or may not have had in them. But we also have to keep in mind the families who've lost a loved one. When you're prepared for death and someone's been sick for a while, you're really not prepared when it actually happens. And when death is sudden and unexplained, especially if it's a tragic set of circumstances, the families are at a total loss as to what they can or can't do, as to what happened, and you need to work with them one-on-one. As your Bell County coroner, I have stayed in touch with our families. For each family, as an example, we had a young baby that passed away back in January. We still are waiting for the forensic autopsy reports to come back. But I have stayed almost weekly in contact with this family about this little baby as to what the cause of death is. So you have to have compassion for those families that you're there for, but you also have to realize you are the coroner and you have to stay within the guidelines set by law in the state of Kentucky to better perform as the coroner and to give the taxpayers the quality of service that they need, that they're paying for, that the coroner's training should give him and let him provide the best possible services as the coroner of Bell County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The second question will be addressed to Mr. Steele first. Ms. Wyatt.
Since both you and your opponent have similar experience in the funeral business, how do you assure the voters that you can balance both efficiently?
I started working part-time in the funeral profession in 1966. I started full-time in 1971. I graduated from the Kentucky School of Mortuary Science with the Bill Pierce Award, and that is the award for the highest professional attitude in the funeral profession. I love my profession. As a coroner, I know there could be a conflict of interest. When we are on a coroner's call, we generally have the emergency service people or police officer ask what funeral home they would like to use, because if Jay's still standing in front of them, maybe they want to use XYZ funeral home, but they don't want to hurt Jay's feelings. So all our families, 100% of those families, have choice and freedom of any funeral home they want to use. So that eliminates any conflict of interest between the funeral homes and the coroner's office. I realize as a licensed professional funeral director that families, again, when they have lost someone, they're at their lowest point in life. They have a tendency to, the important things seem to go right by them. And so it's very important, both as a coroner and as a funeral director, that we respect those families, we respect their wishes, but we need to keep a professional attitude on everything pertaining to both the funeral home and the coroner's office. Thank you.
Please repeat the question, Mr. Boucher.
Since both you and your opponent have similar experience in the funeral business, how do you assure the voters that you can balance both efficiently?
Well, in 26 years as deputy coroner, I made it a policy to never try to influence anybody under any circumstances. When I gave people a callback number, before we had cell phones, I gave them my pager number. After we had cell phones, I gave them my pager, or my cell phone number. I even had them go through Middlesboro Police Department or Bell Dispatch. I didn't want people to feel obligated when they called back to speak to the coroner. When they heard a funeral home attendant answer the phone, I didn't want to put them under any pressure. And I think that most of the funeral directors in the state who are coroners will adhere to that professional standard. I certainly do not want to trick anyone into business, and I don't know that that's really something that goes on a lot. It has always been a hot topic of discussion in Kentucky. The office of coroner is actually a constitutional office that goes back to English common law, and the coroner was actually first tax collector, second a death investigator. Of course, it's evolved over the years, There was even mention one time about a constitutional amendment to take the coroner's office out of Kentucky. I don't see, it may be a problem in other places, but I think that the right individual can balance between the two and be fair to all citizens of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Next question will be answered by Mr. Boucher first. Julia.
How specifically does the coroner's office work in conjunction with other community and state agencies?
It's a very good question. The coroner is involved with all law enforcement in the county. They are involved with emergency medical people, the emergency room staffs at our local hospitals. We work with, in the event of child deaths, with social services. There are many we work with. I have personally worked with all 4 levels of law enforcement: city, county, state, and federal investigations. The coroner's office is like any other office. They have their policy about open records, things of that nature. As the sheriff's office, the police does, but we hold those records confidential until the investigation is completed. And I have worked with the inter-jurisdictional with Tennessee and Virginia. Whenever we had a case that had ties to their state, I believe it was important to communicate with the law enforcement in the other states to let them know that, hey, this case originated in your county, or it has ties to your county. I would like to go ahead and notify you of this, and sometimes we bring them in on the investigation because sometimes it's just prudent to do that to make sure that all bases are covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Any question, Mr. Steele, please?
How specifically does the coroner's office work in conjunction with other county and state agencies?
It's the job of the coroner to determine the cause of death, whatever the circumstances may be. And whether we're working with the city police, the sheriff's department, the state police, or federal, it is very important that we have an open line of communications, especially if you are working, say, with the state and federal, as to who has jurisdiction on that investigation. The coroner is the main person who is his responsibility to determine the cause of death, whether it be working with the federal aviation people, Kentucky State Police, the city police. It is his job or her job to determine the cause of death. In doing an investigation, you have many different parameters that you have to look into, and working hand in hand with whichever law enforcement agency is in charge of that investigation is very important. We keep an open line of communications with all law enforcement people. When we order an autopsy, a representative from the coroner's office of Bell County takes that person to Frankfort or to Louisville for their forensic autopsy. Thus, we're keeping the chain of evidence so that if it goes to court, we can say that the evidence of that person never left the chain of evidence. The coroner was there, or the deputy coroner was there. We also state, if at all possible, for all autopsies, we report back to whichever branch of law is in charge of the investigation of our findings. We keep an open communications with all law enforcement officers, as well as with the family. It's very important, the law enforcement people have a different way that they have to do interrogating or doing investigations, whereas the coroner's office, as I said, our main concern is taking care of finding out the cause of death, but yet we still need to be responsible in taking care of that family's needs and wants and the questions they needed answered. Thank you very much.
We have another 2-minute question. This will be asked by Ms. Wyatt, and Mr. Steele will go first on this one.
If elected, what plans will you implement in your first year as coroner?
Well, when I ran for coroner and was elected, I made 4 promises to implement to improve the coroner's office. And one of the promises I made was to have 2 people in Pineville and 2 people in Middlesboro. And I'm proud to say, with the help of the county judge and fiscal court, we now have 4 certified trained people, the 2 in Middlesboro, the 2 in Pineville. My other promise was to decrease response time to a death scene, and our average response time is 25 minutes countywide. In the city, it's a little quicker than that, both cities. As I said a little earlier, families would have complete freedom of choice in choosing any funeral home they want. We also implemented a death certificate tracking system. When the funeral home sends the death certificate to the coroner, we time and date the receiving of that death certificate, and when we deliver it, we actually hand deliver it back to the funeral home, and they sign a release form showing that they did receive the death certificate back. That way the family knows when we receive the death certificate, and they know when we return the death certificate to them. Some of the other programs that we are in the process of implementing, one of our deputies is in charge of the Child Fatality Review Board. That's where we bring a group of local citizens in our community, the lawyers, doctors, nurses, and we do this in conjunction with the Bell County Health Department. And what we actually do there is loss of a child is tragic in any circumstances. So one of the programs we are implementing and in the process of finalizing is the Child Fatality Review Board, so that we can track, these children and what happened to them, what the cause of death was, so we can possibly correct anything that may be happening down the road. The other things that we have implemented is we have programs we take into the schools, into civic organizations and parent organizations to stop and give a little more education on drugs. Thank you very much.
Same question, Mr. Michelle, please.
If elected, what plans will you implement in your first year as coroner?
One of the first things I would like to do is start utilizing federal law enforcement grants, federal forensic grants. They're out there and they're available. You can do those either one of several ways. You can write them yourself, you can have a grant writer, or you can attach to one of the sheriffs, say the sheriff's office or Millsboro Police, or even through Bell County Emergency Management. You can attach to those grants. There is money out there. We actually are in a unique situation here. We are in the danger zone for a blast from Oak Ridge. Also, we are in the fallout zone from the Bluegrass Army Depot. Being in that situation, plus with the Cumberland Gap Tunnel, there are many, many federal grants available. I would like to utilize those. And going back to, I would like to, the earlier question about using a funeral home, I would like to have an off-site location where families could meet with myself or my deputies. There are properties on the county, in the county courthouse, maybe at emergency management, somewhere that the coroner could have a small office off premises where people could come and meet with us separately and not feel intimidated because they didn't use our particular funeral home. Those are the major things that I would like to see happen in my first year. Thank you.
All right, we are done with our 2-minute questions. We're going to move on to our 1-minute questions. And I'd just like to say I appreciate both of our candidates thus far respecting our time limits. I don't know how much that means to me. We were worried at some point during these debates that I'd have to break in. And so far, everybody's been very well respectful for one another. So, Julie, if you would give us another question. This is a 1-minute question. This will go to Mr. Beshea.
Is there any special training or certification that sets you apart from your opponent?
In 1998, the Kentucky Coroners Association has 3 levels of certification. There is the basic, advanced, and master coroner. Master coroner has to complete over 1,000 death investigations, so many hours of training, and in 1998 I met that criteria and I was elected, I was awarded my master coroner certificate. And I'm proud to say in 2010 I was elected as president of the Kentucky Coroners Association by my fellow coroners. I feel like that they saw a commitment in me to the families that I served here, and they knew that that commitment would carry over to all the families of the county. I also have over 500 hours of education from the Department of Criminal Justice Training and several hundred hours of practical field training. Thank you.
Same question, Mr. Steele, please.
Is there any special training or certification that sets you apart from your opponent?
In this day and age of forensics, I think it's very important to get all the extra training that you can. The Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice Training has a set guidelines of training, and I've had 142 hours of training from those folks in the last 3 years. But I also feel that there's some training available that they cannot provide because of state restrictions and funding and things like that. That's why I have 40 hours of training for the master's program sponsored by the St. Louis University School of Medicine's Division of Forensics and Environmental Pathology. They bring a group of people together to better become coroners. I also have 16 hours from the National Forensics Academy at the University of Tennessee's Law Enforcement Innovation Center for a total of 198 hours in just 3 years, plus, as Bill said, ongoing training through, I guess you'd say, on-the-job training. But training is very important, and all the other training I paid for myself out of my pocket so that the taxpayers weren't burdened for the additional training that I myself wanted to take to become a better coroner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A 1-minute question from Ms. Wyatt, and this will go to Mr. Steele first.
What do you think your supporters would say of you?
I would hope that they would, as I said earlier, I made promises if elected coroner. I kept all my promises, and then some. We're very, very closely with all emergency personnel, whether it be the rescue squad, ambulance services, both Pineville and Middlesboro. I would like to think that I made my promises, I kept my promises, all while saving taxpayers of Bell County over $42,600 tax dollars in just 3 years. So I'd like to think that their vote for me to place me in the office of coroner was well placed, and they trusted me, and I've done what I said I would, and I appreciated their support and their respect, and I very much respect them for giving me the opportunity to improve the coroner's office. Thank you.
One question, Mr. Boucher, please.
What do you think your supporters would say of you?
I would like to think that they'd say that I was fair and that I was honest and that I kept my word. At the end of my 4 years, if elected, I would like for my supporters to walk up to me and say, I believe our confidence was well placed. I tried to be very family oriented. I love my family very much, and I have been there. I've lost loved ones, and I know how it feels. And I have tried to treat every family that I've served, whether as a deputy coroner or as a funeral director, just exactly the same way I want my family treated if the roles were reversed. If someone was talking to my wife about my death, I'd try to put myself in that person's shoes and say, okay, how would I want this person telling my wife and my daughters? It's basic. It's very simple. You just treat people the way you want to be treated. Thank you.
We have another 1-minute question from Ms. Herron, and this one will go to Mr. Boucher first.
You touched on this already a little bit, but what changes, if any, do you see necessary with the office and the duties of a coroner?
As Mr. Steele stated earlier, training is important, and not just through what the state, there's mandatory training we have to take, there's voluntary training that we can take, but there is a wonderful, wonderful variety of online, either through webinars that are no cost to anybody. There are professional magazines and subscriptions and publications. I still get those. I still read them. It doesn't hurt one bit to stay up on everything, but I think training is paramount. The more trained we are, the more informed we are, and the more informed we are, the better results we're going to get for those that we serve. Thank you.
One question from Mr. Steele, please.
What changes, if any, do you see necessary with the office and duties of the coroner?
What was the last 2 words?
What changes do you see necessary with the office and duties of coroner?
We talked a little bit earlier about, I am a member of the Kentucky Coroners Association, and I mentioned earlier about the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. This organization has been around for many, many years, and I'm proud to say I was one of the first members in Kentucky to the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. As Bill said, the training is absolutely positively necessary, and the Kentucky Coroners Association this year has recognized that, and they too have joined the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. And in doing so, they're helping to bring a better understanding of forensic science into the coroners field, to where coroners will be better trained. As I mentioned earlier about the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators, that's one of the things that this association is pushing, to better make a professional out of the coroner's office. And I very much appreciate the opportunity to be in both these organizations and what we're doing to improve the Bell County Coroner's Office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another 1-minute question from Ms. Wyatt. This one goes to Mr. Steele first.
I realize that we've touched on this just a little bit, but this is just a little bit of a personal interest. If my loved one dies at home of an unknown cause, please explain what procedures will take place when you arrive at their home.
The first thing we do when we arrive at the scene of a death is we immediately start looking at as soon as we walk through the door, we start looking at all the surroundings. We look at rooms, lighting. We go into where the person's passed away. As we step into that door, we look around. We try to see what we can physically see right then. We also take a camera with us, and we photograph those scenes from all different angles in case, your memory, you think you can remember something, but without the camera, which tells you everything that was there. Once we determine if that person died of natural causes based on the evidence at hand, then we will go ahead and contact or ask you who or what funeral home you would like to use. We have a family member or a police officer check with you to see who you want to use, and we contact that funeral home. If we don't know what the cause of death is, and we immediately revert to Frankfurt, we call the forensic medical examiner in Frankfurt and relate to them what we have available and what we need and feel like we need to have an autopsy for. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wyatt, please direct this question at Mr. Boucher.
If my loved one dies at home of an unknown cause, please explain what procedures will take place when you arrive at their home.
First thing I always did is what we refer to as a social autopsy. We ask questions first about the person's personal habits. Did they smoke? Did they drink? Did they have any physical disabilities? Then we would get into the medical history, and then we would go to the person's personal physician if they had a history, discuss it with them, and together with their physician arrive at what we felt was the best suitable cause of death to list for that person. If that couldn't be arrived at, then you have to go deeper. You have to start obtaining fluid samples, blood samples, whatever's needed to send to the laboratories, and sometimes an autopsy. It was not limited to, but sometimes that investigation included an autopsy or at least a consult with one of the doctors at the State Medical Examiner's office. Thank you.
We just have one more 1-minute question, and then we'll have closing statements by both candidates. This last question is from Julia. It is a 1-minute question, and it's going to Mr. Boucher first.
How does the role of coroner impact the community as a whole?
The responsibility of the coroner to the community is a very great responsibility, as I said earlier. We are responsible for reporting, determining cause and manner of death, and should there be, I was on the panel of this pandemic symposium that was held at London several years ago. We have a responsibility for public health, not just to our county, but to everyone around. The coroner is vital in coordinating causes of death to the person's physician. Should we have an autopsy and a person could have a congenital defect that would possibly benefit someone else in their family to have access to that information. We also, okay, Travis, I'm done. Thank you.
And the last question goes to Mr. Steele.
How does the role of the coroner impact the community as a whole?
Of course, the main main duty of the coroner is to determine the cause of death of a person when they've passed away. But I also think that we have the obligation to have a public outreach to folks and make them aware of, like, for example, the drug problems. We know there are drug problems all over the country, and Bell County is no different than that. We actually have, I did a program in a school here not too long ago, and this young girl in the second grade, we talked about drug abuse, and she said, one of the questions, we asked her a question, she said, how can you get my mother off drugs? Now, you talk about a second grader asking a question like that. I didn't have an answer at that time, but I went back to our community, and the Cumberland River Comprehensive Care Center helped me develop a program with a series of donations from pamphlets and things that they gave us, so we can go back and we can tell that little girl or a family member how they can get help. So it's not just a matter of determining the cause of death, it's being a part of the community to help deter deaths in Bell County. Thank you.
As the moderator, I would like to reserve the right to ask a question of my own, if that would be okay with everyone in the audience and the candidates. Is that okay, gentlemen? Okay. Bell County has a big drug problem. We also have a prescription overdose problem. When the cause of death is reported and you are confident that it is from a drug overdose, how do you report that to the state so that those statistics can be compiled? Mr. Bichet.
The coroner's office is required to report to the medical examiner's office all drug deaths that do not go through their office. If an autopsy is not ordered and the coroner obtains blood, urine samples, whatever samples are necessary, that death is required to be reported. But also I'd like to go back earlier to where you go into a home and you see doctors in Tennessee or Virginia who are writing these things who are not part of the CASPER system, which is the system used in Kentucky by doctors to, when they have a patient they think may be doctor shopping, they can go out and see who all they've seen and what they've been written. I think it's imperative that our bordering states know which doctors that people are going to obtain these drugs, and hopefully they have a similar program that will help, like the CASPER program, to identify these doctors and possibly raise some red flags. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bichet. Mr. Steele, same question to you. I'm going to paraphrase what I said to Mr. Bichet. When you feel confident that a death has been caused due to a drug overdose, a prescription drug overdose, can you please tell me how you report it or how it is supposed to be reported to the state so the stats can be compiled? And, of course, we know Bell County does have that problem.
In the state of Kentucky, actually now, we do the testing. We do a blood, urine, and viscerous testing for the drugs in the system, how much drugs have been processed through the system. But we actually, Dr. Corey, who's the chief medical examiner for the state of Kentucky, reviews all death certificates coming in. And she also reviews the AIT lab reports as to what the cause of death was, if that person had a particular number of drugs in them. In Bell County, since I've been your coroner, we've had 408 coroner investigated deaths. So the 408 coroner investigated deaths, 16% of them are directly drug related in Bell County. The state and local law enforcement cannot, do not have the capabilities of enforcing laws against certain doctors. However, we do have federal programs that we have dealt with and turning over names of doctors that have come in more and more at a time, because they do have the laws and guidelines where they can pursue these doctors who are constantly writing pill mills is exactly what they are.
Thank you. So, I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Before we give our closing statements, again, I would like to thank the folks who've been asking the questions, Julia and Sue. And people wonder where these questions come from. A few months ago, when I said I was going to hold these debates through the station, I had asked folks, please private message me questions that you would like to see asked of your local officials and those who will be running for office. The majority, at least 90% of these questions, are the ones that have been asked in these debates. I've also given those asking the questions the opportunity to ask their own questions as a prerequisite for being on the panel. So this has come from the entire community. It's not something that I came up on my own, because I believe these debates are here to inform our community, The sad thing is only 37% of registered voters in Bell County are voting. Last time we had a vote, this was one of the tightest races. It is very important that if you want your voice heard out there, that you don't sit home and worry for somebody else to do it on your behalf. You've got to get to the polls and you have to vote at just about any cost. People have died for this right, and you should be out there voting to have your voice heard. With that said, we are going to have Mr. Steele with his closing arguments first. And you have, sir, 1 minute. You can say anything you need to ask these folks for their vote.
I'm the first new corner they've had in, I guess, almost, 29 or 30 years. And as I said earlier, I can see ways that I can improve the coroner's office, and I have done that. We have saved, like I said earlier, thousands of taxpayer dollars. We have improved the coroner's office from all aspects, from response time, education. We have 4 trained certified people now that are absolutely, I think, phenomenal. By having 2 in Millersboro and 2 in Pineville, our response time is quicker. And all the promises I've made, I have kept and then some. I would love to continue to be your coroner in Bell County. I ask for your support so we continue to improve the coroner's office and be able to serve the citizens of Bell County while improving the coroner's office, and still remembering that when somebody's lost a loved one, regardless of the circumstances of death, that is their loved one, and we need to treat them with respect while still staying in accordance with the guidelines of the law. Thank you.
And your closing statement, Mr. Bechet, you have 1 minute, sir.
Having served 26 years as deputy coroner, I was never the elected coroner, and I would like the opportunity to serve Bell County as your coroner. I believe that my years of service, my experience, and my qualifications will stand for themselves. I want to give the Bell Countyans a coroner's office they can be proud of, and possibly even make it a model office for other coroner systems, not just in Kentucky, but whatever states around us that have coroner systems. I would like to make our office a model office for that particular state or jurisdiction. I would like to take this opportunity to ask you to vote for me, support me, and just please, like Brian said, get out and vote. It's very important. Your vote is your voice. Can't be heard if you don't do it. May 20th primary, remember to get out. Thank you.
Before we say goodbye, I always like to ask the candidates, do you feel that you were treated fairly in this particular forum?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. It takes a lot to get up in front of just 2 or 3 people, let alone folks who are watching on television and on the internet. And with that said, I do want to let you know that not only this race, but the Jailers Forum, the County Clerks Forum, the Judge Executives Forum, you can see that in several different ways. 2 of them are fairly similar. Hometown TV 13 has this going on pretty much all week and into next week, leading up to the vote itself in the primary. Very quickly, as we've said, Time Warner has changed up their lineup. If you have a cable box, you're sitting at channel 13 with no problems. If you have an older television that requires a black box, you are on 22.104. That's 22.104. We are loading these forums up to the internet, and you can watch on demand in your own time, because I know it can be inconvenient sometimes to keep up with schedules, but we are making that available as well. Now, before we go, everyone who has been a part of all of these debates, not everyone is here. Ronell Johnson was with us in some of the earliers. We also had Mr. Charles Birchfield with us. And we want to say a big thank you to everyone who's participated. Thank you to the Bell Theater for allowing us to have this forum. Before we go, next Thursday, weather permitting, because there are so many magistrates, it's kind of difficult to have them all up on the same dais. We'd have several dozen up here. It would be very difficult to moderate. I'm offering time over at the courthouse, outside, on the courthouse steps. We'll have a microphone and speakers set up, maybe have some hot dogs and things like that. Make an opportunity for the magistrates to come by. Give them 3 or 4 minutes to say who they are, where they're from, what they're all about, and just remind you, the voter, why you should get out there and vote. That's next Thursday. We'll start that around 6:30 here in Bell County. As always, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for all the media showing up. We appreciate your coverage of this. Without you, we are kind of dead in the water. So thank you very much, folks. We hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you to my friend Travis for keeping the time this evening, and thank you. Hope you have a good night. God bless. We'll talk to you soon.
Hello neighbors, this is Jay Steele, your Bell County Coroner. Experience is defined as knowledge or practical wisdom gained from what one has observed. In addition to the required training by the Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice Training, and to be a better coroner to the voters of Bell County, I have taken voluntarily the following additional training. I participated in the master's program sponsored by the St. Louis University School of Medicine's Division of Forensics and Environmental Pathology, the National Forensics Academy at the University of Tennessee's Law Enforcement Innovation Center. I participated in the Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration, the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigations, and I participated with the National Transportation Safety Board. I have improved the efficiency of the Bell County Coroner's Office while saving thousands of taxpayer dollars. Vote for me, Jay Steele, as we continue to improve the Coroner's Office.
Hi, I'm Jim Mills Jr. of Mills Furniture and Appliance out of RJ, Kentucky. As you can see, Mills Furniture and Appliance is providing you with the highest quality outdoor power equipment there is. Husqvarna, Mills Furniture and Appliance, bringing you chainsaws, weed eaters, push mowers, brush cutters, blowers, riders, and self-propelled mowers. For anything you've ever wanted, needed, or desired in the outdoor power equipment, Mills Furniture and Appliance and Husqvarna, bringing it to you.
When you're looking for a place to live, what do you look for? Convenience, value, safe housing? Well, of course you do. The Housing Authority of Middlesboro offers affordable housing for you and your family. All the apartments have been updated and are energy efficient. Income-based rent, fair market rent, and flat rent. Whatever your situation is, the Housing Authority of Middlesboro provides safe, clean housing that is user-friendly in a neighborhood-type setting. Randy Earl invites everyone to look at the Housing Authority of Middlesboro. Call 606-248-6500 for more information. Safe and affordable housing you can call home. The Housing Authority of Middlesboro.
Don't let the unexpected happen to you. Let AAPS Systems give you peace of mind 24/7, 365 days a year. Rest assured that if you're not home, someone is always watching. For as low as $31.75 per month, AAPS Systems can provide your home with state-of-the-art 24-hour UL-approved monitoring in case of burglary or fire. Call today and get peace of mind. 248-2929 for AAPS Systems, protecting the tri-state area for over 40 years.